And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I am Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Leslie Lane. Leslie, thank you for taking some time to be with me today.
Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. We are going to be talking all things, oh, dare I say, photography, right? She's a professional photographer focused on corporate photography with excellence. And I'm really kind of excited about this because we see, I see brochures and websites and things all the time. And those things just happen, by the way. We don't think about the person behind the camera and everything that has to go into making a wow experience for somebody. And so we're going to dive into that. And as we do, Leslie, tell me, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
Well, it's a pretty exciting story. I am a third generation photographer, all the way back to my grandparents who started in the industry in the early 1930s. And
Wow.
then I took over my stepfather and my mother's business in the early 90s. I've had a camera in my hand since I was 6 years old. And it was kind of a given that I was going to do it, but it wasn't a given that I was going to do corporate photography because at the time, you can imagine in the late 80s and early 90s, it was not really a female-based photographic thing.
Yeah.
Weddings, babies, portraits, women did that. But corporate photography was a male-dominated sport. And my stepfather, unfortunately, got taken out of the business due to a health issue. And it
Mhm.
was either take over or we were going to close it. And so at a very young age, I took over and I've been doing it for 30 plus years.
That's awesome. Very cool story. Thanks for stepping in and taking over because we all need that. So let's talk about corporate photography. Get us in the ballpark. Who do you work with? Give us some examples. But what's your heartbeat behind corporate photography?
The heartbeat behind corporate photography is always the brand. People don't really think about that. They're like, oh, I need a picture. Let's get a picture taken. That's not really what we do. So we work with companies, large and small. It's all about the budget. It's not about how many employees you have or how much you gross. We work from everybody from a 5 employee company all the way to multinational companies that work around the world. But we come in to further their brand. So we want to make sure that the images that they're showing the public, their buyers, their investors, that matches up with the story they want to tell to those people.
Yeah, that's really cool. You've always heard it say that a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? And sometimes the wrong picture can be worth 1,000 words too, in the wrong direction. And I know in today's economy, we all carry um, cameras with us, right? But there's a different. It's not, and I want to unpack this. I want to tease this out a little bit. It's not just the quality of the camera and the lens. It's dare I say, more important, the quality of the person taking the picture, understanding that brand, but how to frame certain things. I was on your website and you've got some pictures, and I love the fact that they're not just here, right? They're from angles, and the picture itself almost tells a story. That was on purpose, right?
Oh, of course. I mean, we used to joke all the time. I had a longtime assistant that worked with me. She said, you have a heck of an eye. And I would say, only one, because you can only put one eye behind the camera. But I do have a heck of an eye. And that's what is the most important thing about the photographer, not the quality of the camera, but that does matter, but the vision behind the camera. So, yes, the angles, the lighting. How do you take the brand that the client wants you to promote and then take it with a vision of a photographer, the lighting of a professional, and really make it sing?
Yeah, and all of that's actually super important. You had a picture on your website. I assume it's a library. That's what it looked like. But I almost saw myself standing in that room looking at things just from the angle and the way that you portrayed it. And I thought, now that's really cool. Because so many times, whether it's a website, video, brochure, whatever it is, everything is so stock image now, and there's got to be a better way to do it that communicates the brand, but also helps that business owner tell the story.
Absolutely. And that's actually becoming more and more popular. So, in an age of AI, and I'm sure some people noticed this week that Getty Images and Shutterfly merged. So, I think that was about 2 weeks ago in an effort to fend off AI. Um, People want to see the real thing. They want to feel like they're there. They don't want to see an artificially generated image. They want to see what it's like, whether it's their product or their building or their people. There's a real turn to transparency right now. Is that what you really look like, or is that something else? And so the photographer, people don't understand that your iPhone, first of all, the sensor is quite small, so the quality is really not very good. But choosing a lens, it requires a photographer that understands what each lens does, because the average person does not understand the difference between a wide angle lens, a long end lens, and what each of those things do when you put your eye behind it. So
Right.
there's just so much going on. It's really an exciting time for corporate photography.
Oh, I bet it is. Not to mention the lens, but my father-in-law had cameras like that, right? And they had all these f stops and g stops and all. And I'm like, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. He giggled, he loved it, and I'm like, go for it, you know. So I like the old point and shoot thing because I'm not a photographer, right?
Right.
But how do you, it's interesting because you talked about the vision behind your business, and I think
Right.
so many times as entrepreneurs we have a vision, but I like how you're using that in a different context to go how your business shows up, and the transparency is so important. We talk to clients all the time about just being real
Right.
and how people want to bond with you emotionally, and that can happen through great photography, right?
It can. And in a world of social media where my husband has a great saying, he's like, never compare your outtakes to somebody else's highlight reel. And so, in an age of social media, it's really hard to find authenticity.
Yeah,
And so, people are building libraries of images with me that they can then put on their social media so that they're not using stock, they're not using fake things. They're wanting to make sure, I mean, we don't need to air our dirty laundry on social media, but
right.
certainly they're going to want to make sure that they've got either happy employees or beautiful buildings or an amazing product that's different from somebody else. It's just getting to be different because you want to see the real thing.
Yeah, getting to be different, getting to be real, as I would say, because I talk with a lot of my clients, and I say, I'd really like on your about page to have a video or a picture of you, maybe you and your family at the beach or riding the bikes with your dogs. I don't know, but give me a little something more than just suit and tie and I graduated from XYZ. I don't care. I care that you're the baseball coach of your kids' little league. I care about that, right? Because that communicates to me. And you can say so many things in one picture that would that when you, Leslie, understand the business owner and their vision, you're able to go, got it. Let's do this. Is that kind of how you work with people?
Sure, but what you've got to understand is you're talking about people that need to be related to on a personal level because that's their story.
Mhm.
That's going to push their story. Other corporations, larger corporations, they do need to be seen as professional. So your photographer needs to understand the difference. They
Excellent.
need to understand who is the buyer, who are they communicating with, and what's important to them. Because what's important to the people you're talking about is that, hey, I like that you serve on your church committee. I like that you're the little league coach. I like that you spend time with your family. Where other people are like, I like that you guys have a collaborative environment. I like that
Mhm.
when I go into your office, it's professional. So who knows what the message is? Because for every message, there's 35 different companies that have a different one.
Right. So you could come into a manufacturing company, let's say,
Mhm.
and take photographs of the buildings, the equipment, the people, so that they might use that in a storytelling thing or a product launch thing. You could come into a SaaS company and and take pictures of probably not the software, but probably the people and in the culture. So you tend to be very versatile based on what the client needs and who their audience really is. Is it fair?
Correct. So Indianapolis is a mid-sized market. We're not like Chicago, LA, Atlanta, places like that. And so I'm a generalist. Even though I work on a nationwide level, I'm what they call a generalist. So manufacturing, imagine you're taking some of your technology and you're transferring it from a more manual basis to a more automated basis, making you more efficient so that you can charge a specific price range for your product. Well, that photography is going to be perfect to show that change in technology. So that's a story for their
Yes.
clients. But yes, you're exactly right, and it just depends on exactly what the client wants as to what I'm shooting that day. But I love it because it's never the same.
It's yeah, it's always different. I was just sitting here thinking my sister-in-law works in Minnesota for a company that manufactures. I want to say it's like shoulder implants or a hip
Sure.
implant, and I thought, okay, wow, that's out there. But thinking about what you do and how you could bring that to life for one of their buyers, a hospital or whoever buys that kind of stuff, right? Could be totally revolutionary to go, no, no, this is how we do it. This is the steel we use or whatever it is, right? That's unique to that company so that they can tell that story and gain more clients, I guess, right?
So that company would do things three ways. First, they would photograph the product by itself, showing the doctors or the distributors, this is the product itself. This is what makes it special. Like you're talking about, it's this size, it's smaller, it's, more nimble, whatever it is. And then they would probably even show it in surgery. They would say, this is what it would look like putting it in. And
Right.
then in the end, they would show happy people that have had the shoulder replacement, playing tennis, playing pickleball, all those things. They would have it all the way through the process. And each one of those steps is equally important to the promotion of that product.
Yeah. And I assumed with since you have a couple of years experience doing this, 30 plus in three generations, that you can walk into a situation and hear from the client what they're wanting to do. And sometimes maybe come up with some other ideas or some concepts or something to go, hey, that's great. Have you thought about this? And help that client come up with maybe something better that they hadn't even thought of because they're probably not photographers like you. So they're not, dare I say, seeing it the same way you're going to see it. Does that ever happen?
Sure. It depends if there's a graphic designer involved. So
Mhm.
again, we're talking to branding. It's a long process, from start to somebody seeing the ad. But yes, sometimes I don't even have to say anything. I just start shooting it. So I do it the way the client wants, always. Client's number one. Service industry, you know how it goes. You do it for the client first. And then I may just start shooting some variations that I'm thinking. And as that person sees what I'm doing, they're collaborating with me because I have a laptop where they're seeing every image that I shoot. They're not, blind to the situation. And then we may just collaborate and go, oh, I love that, but do this. So it's not really, what's the word I'm looking for? We don't stop and say, would you like to? We just got to keep
Right.
going. Even though the images are still photography, not video, we just keep on going until we make sure that we've covered every angle that they could possibly want.
Yeah, and that's good. And I love that the fact that you said you got a laptop there showing it all that because so many times it's, all right, we'll take some pictures. Great. How did it turn out? And the worst thing for me is when you're at a wedding or something and they say and the photographer takes this and they turn the camera around and you got this little square thing. It's like I can't see anything. So you come to the table with this whole the bigger perspective, years of experience to go. I'm sure your brain's always going, oh, that's good. I'm going to do this, and then we're going to piece it all together so that the client at the end of the day has their own wow experience to go, wow, that's better than I ever expected it to be.
Yeah, the problem's turning it off, Michael. The problem is in the middle of the night when I've got a job coming up and I'm like, so if I take this angle, what would that be like?
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I bet. So let's talk about I mean, most of my audience are entrepreneurs. They're small to medium sized business owners. Some of them are large corporations, right? How would a medium sized company, 8 to 10 employees, right? They're professional services of some nature. Where would you fit into their world to help them tell their story better? What are some of the outtakes? Because I sit here and they sit here and go, okay, a picture. I got a picture. Great. What am I going to do with it?
Right,
Unpack
right.
how. right?
So some of the professional services that I work with are attorneys, accountants,
Hmm.
financial advisors. So you're
Yeah.
talking about people that really need their customer to know, like, and trust them.
Yes.
So we normally will do several things. You get the very stiff, here I am, here's a corporate portrait with your, resume. And then we will go in, and sometimes if the team is important. Let's just say that what there may be a financial advisory firm, they have 10 employees, but they've got a diverse number of people, a diverse kind of people. They want to show their whole team to show their customers, hey, you walk in the door, you're not just getting the name on the building, you're getting all of these support people as well. And then a lot of times we'll do some of these photographs where the executives will take off their suit and tie, maybe be in a golf shirt, or they're rolling up their sleeves and they're looking over financials and they're talking to a customer. And we'll do all of those still images too. And then when we're done, yes, if they don't have somebody to help them, we will highly recommend you need to put, update it on LinkedIn. You need to every so often post some of these photographs of you being in a more casual environment. Are you volunteering out in the community? That's a great time where a cell phone comes in handy, where
Yeah.
you do need to promote those things, that it's just not worth hiring a professional to go photograph you at the food bank, but it is good for you to photograph that at the food bank. I think one of the hardest things I did, Michael, with my brand is I really didn't like being on the other side of the camera. I
Mm.
really didn't like, doing things like this where I'm promoting myself. But in this world, you're right. People want to see you on a professional side and they want to see you on a personal side doing good things. So I do try to get in there with my clients and see how I can send those messages, because it's lots of messages these days, not just one.
That's right. That's right. So whether you're a small business, whether you're a manufacturing firm, or probably anywhere in the middle, maybe just a corporate conglomerate somewhere. I used to live in Arkansas, and there are two or three big corporate conglomerates. We all need to put the vision of our business in front of our buyers. And that vision can be, yes, this is where we're going, but it could also be, but this is who we are. And being able to tell that story that's consistent with your brand message and that adds value is well, it's a skill, right?
It's a
Let's
skill. And I feel like that so many people now are hiring website developers instead of designers.
Yeah.
So when you're using your photography, if you don't have a well-designed website that captures because videos will capture your audience and still photographies will capture your audience, words do not.
Mm,
Boxes do not. And so working with your website designer and your photographer together can make sure that those impact images do what they're supposed to do. You cannot go to a homepage with a mediocre photograph or a mediocre video and make an impression on your client. They're going to click and be gone. I think that I heard a few months ago, it's like 5 seconds. When people land on your website, you've got 5 seconds to make an impression. You
yeah.
better have a good picture on there.
That's right. That's right. Because you don't have much time, and doing it yourself or hiring somebody who's done. Yeah, I love the difference between a developer and a designer. That's a major difference. You really need both,
You
right?
need
And
both.
and I know Leslie can help you on at least one side of that because she's been doing it quite some time. Leslie, how do where would somebody go to take that next step with you to discover a little bit more of you, your work, maybe engage with you, have some discussions? What's their next step?
Sure. My website is studio13online.com. So just all one word. The 13 is a number. There's a contact us. That's going to go directly to me. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, and I am Leslie, Lesle, Lane. And you can reach me all those platforms. I'd be happy to connect with anyone that wants to chat.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to put that in the show notes so that as you're, a busy entrepreneur, you're out doing things, making things happen, making your vision happen. I want to put those links in the show notes so that you can connect with Leslie and she can help your vision happen in a new way for your business and really represent your brand to your buyers in a powerful way. Leslie, thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for the energy you bring and for being my guest today on Experts Speak.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.